Good morning. Today we are out of St. John's Gospel, and we are moving to Mark. This morning, Mark makes 3 points from his meeting with Jesus and the Pharisees. The commandments of God were substituted with their man-made traditions. They were thinking good works were going to salvage them. Their prayers, songs, worship had no commitment in them. Even their worship was fake. The disciples must keep in mind that God's acceptance and love for us go above ethnic limits. It is really weird how the Jews developed this washing hands technique. Goodness. First, they pour the water on the fingers pointing upward. Then they take the water, they keep it in a bucket. Then they wash their hands from the wrist to the fingers, but this time pointing downward. You hear me? Pointing down. And they figure in this way they rid any ceremonial sinfulness from their hands. Now, all these rules and techniques had nothing to do with cleanliness. They did it in such a ceremony that it became a tradition. That's all. Jesus disapproves of this tradition, as he said in verse 8 of today's reading. You abandon the commandment of God and hold to human traditions. Jesus saw right through this dead tradition that they seem more concerned with outward stuff than the things that really make a difference. Another passage Jesus spoke against such tradition was in Matthew 23, verse 25. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Jesus used the opportunity to stress the point that superficial, outward observances were not important as what came from inside. What is in your heart is what Jesus is interested in. Somebody said the heart of Christianity is the heart. The outward ceremonies we follow are not important to God as who we are inside. Whether you pray, standing up or sitting down, is not what matters. Okay? Washing hands 100 times does not stop you from having a sin in your heart. Singing all the songs in the hymn book, all right, doesn't make you know God. All right? Doing all the tradition, customs are not as important as what is in your heart. That is what's important. Okay? If we are bringing it to 2021, some folks think it is a big deal to say grace before each meal. Some people don't. Okay? Now, let me ask you, WWJD, do you know what that is? What would Jesus do? That's the acronym. He would probably not want to make a mountain out of a molehill. The main thing Jesus would take away from this is people believe more in showing than doing. Again, in today's language, talk the talk is one thing, but walk the walk. That's what's important. When talking to the Pharisees and scribes, the bottom line of what Jesus told them is purity is not about following external rules and not worry about what's inside. Think of it like this. Doing what is right, okay, is not only for when folks are looking. When people can see you, you do what's right. Behind them, you do something else. You have to constantly watch what state your heart is. By the way, when Jesus is talking about your heart, he's not talking about, emotional stuff we associate with the red heart shaped chocolate for Valentine's. He's not even talking about the blood pump we have in our chest. He's not. When Jesus talks about your heart, he refers to your inner self, okay? The core, the center. Today's gospel is not meant to make you weak, but to bring you forward a problem, the challenge in front of us as people of faith. The consumer society we live in is always pumping out ads in your phone, on your television, everywhere, showing us how to spend our way out of our problems. You and I both know that buying more stuff is not going to solve the problem that Jesus exposed. As Christians, we should not let menial things take away our focus. We should live our lives under the standard of the commandments. Love our God with all our being. That love your neighbor stuff, it applies to all your neighbors. Maybe you hear things like, anyone who blank is not Christian. We hear that. It doesn't matter what you fill in the blank with. If you say anyone who is homosexual is not Christian. If you say anyone who doesn't tithe, that's give money every Sunday to the church, is not Christian. If you say anyone who votes Republican is not Christian, okay? You'd be dead wrong, because you forget that Christianity includes both morality and Christianity and spirituality. When we make these fill in the blank type of statements, it is because it forms, a circle. It forms a circle, a Christian circle that we find ourselves in. You step into it. And some of our friends, okay, many people don't fit the description. They fill the blank the wrong way. So they are excluded. They are kept out of the circle. Let me ask you guys a question. Who does Christ exclude? You're absolutely right. In the gospel, Jesus doesn't draw any circle to keep nobody out. Okay? He does not keep anybody out. Now, hold on just 1 minute though. Okay? Don't get me wrong. It is not that anything goes. Okay? Morality does matter. Very important. Christianity goes deeper than behavior. There is tremendous happiness for us in the faithful realization that while Christianity ought to shape our actions, our Christianity goes deeper than our behavior. Christianity has repeated implications for how we live daily. Still, Christianity is mysticism before it is morality. Faith before it is action. The seed of a new life before it is fruit of that new life. This is not a new situation. In the gospel of today, we see some of it. Some Pharisees and scribes complained the disciples of Jesus for neglecting to keep traditional practices. They say, in other words, that folks who do not do those things cannot be people of faith. These Pharisees and scribes are drawing circles. They're trying to make a little circle somewhere, putting themselves on the inside and the others out. Jesus brings the conversation around quickly to the real issue. He says, in effect, stop judging one another's conduct. Don't concern the issues of morality alone. Look at what's beneath your own behavior. That's where the poison is. That's where you can make something happen. Get clean hearts, new hearts, hearts of flesh rather than hearts of rock. The disorder on the exterior of your life is due to the disorder within. Jesus came to help us change our hearts. Change of hearts is not easy with the mystery. It only takes a moment to happen, but it takes a lifetime. It depends completely on God, yet it relies completely on us. Somebody told me a story of this old guy who, he said, he wanted to change the world when he was a young man. He realized he could not. So he decided to change his community. He could not. He decided, let me change my family. He could not. Well, when he couldn't change anyone, he asked God, change me. Okay? And that's when everything happened. God did change him, And wouldn't you know it, the world got changed. And it became a better place. Come here to the altar. Jesus is changing hearts this morning at the cost of his cross. He waits for you and me right here. Will every God's people say, Amen?